The following stories are from Malicious Compliance. This is a video made as a thank you for helping the channel get to 300 subs and 500k views in such a short time. Thank you to everyone, and please continue to support the channel. Story 1, you want extra butter? Coming right up? This happened many years ago when I was about 14. I am the youngest cousin of my extended family, and the youngest child in the immediate family. Family members would often ask me to do things that inconvenience themselves. Myself and 5 family members went to see a movie together. This movie theater had a popcorn station where you could add your own butter to the popcorn you ordered. Before the movie started, I had to butter the popcorn. Halfway through the previews, I had to run out and butter the popcorn again. About 15 minutes into the movie, I had to do it again. This got quite annoying as I wanted to watch this movie. Obviously, about an hour into the movie, they asked me to butter the popcorn for a third time. At this point, I am getting annoyed, and I say fine. I go to the popcorn station and put as much butter on this popcorn as humanly possible. Every kernel soaked in liquid butter. This popcorn was given to us in a flimsy bag. By the time I got back to my seat, I could feel the butter seep out of the bag. I simply handed the popcorn over to enjoy the rest of the movie. As the movie went on, the popcorn bag was set on the ground. You could see a pool of butter form and then eventually a stream of butter. At the end of the movie, everyone had to watch their step, otherwise they would slip in said butter. A small act of malicious compliance. But my 14-year-old self got to enjoy the rest of the movie. Story 2. Want me to use my vacations? Fine. A new manager was hired for our team, and quickly he wanted to impose his way of doing things. Daily stand-up meetings, people having lunch at different times, etc. So he didn't start off well with most people in our team. Then he started going after people who had accumulated annual leave. Here in Australia you get 20 days annual leave per year. I had none left, so no problem with me, but this friend of mine had been working there for nearly 8 years and never took a day off. He had months worth of annual leave. This manager wanted to make an example of him and ordered him to plan out vacations and/or sell back to the company some of that time. Perfectly legal, but with tons of conditions. My friend didn't want to take any time off, but was being pressured constantly by our manager. Every day at our stand-up meetings, the first item would always be pending annual leave and would just fixate on my friend. One day my friend just had enough of this guy and gave him 2 options. He told him he wanted to go for extended holidays back to his country and take it all at once, or sell the whole thing back to the company. The manager accepted the first option, only to come back next day after checking with his manager to say that wasn't possible, as he would have to go for nearly 6 months and we had plenty of projects in the pipeline. Then he said, "You'll have to sell the whole thing back to the company," only to come back the next day after checking with HR. One of the conditions says that you can only sell a maximum of 20 days. QMC. From that day onwards, every morning my friend started emailing our manager, copying HR and the head of our department, asking him for an update on his annual leave arrangements, stating he had given him the options he was looking for and was waiting for his response. He would also bring it up and push for an answer every day at our stand-up meetings. He never got a reply from our manager, but weeks later got a reply from the head of our department indicating they will review other options and let him know. They never did. The following year my friend had his first daughter and ended up taking extended leave then. 3 months the pushy manager had already resigned as he never felt comfortable in the team and found another job somewhere else. Story 3. Stay until it's done? Okay, I'm doing it by the book then and getting an extra day off. I used to work as a supervisor in my last job and was directly working with a union. Some of my managers really didn't want to deal with things when it came to workplace injuries, so I had to deal with most of them. If you have worked with a union before, this is a very long and time-consuming process. While important, very tedious. So that brings us to that one evening. I was on my second double in a row of 3 and very much ready to go home. As I wrapped up my area, my evening manager texted me to assist another supervisor with an injury. The supervisor was newer and needed to be taught. I informed them I was already there on a double and needed to come back on the morning. And was there anyone else, or could they help them? This manager, who was notorious for passing their work on others, he texted me no, and I had to stay until it was done. Okay, I have written documentation of a directive. Who am I to say no? Alright, well then, since I'm teaching, I'm going by the book. I opened up the union and company policy on workplace incidents and followed it step by step. By the time we got to the drug test portion, the local clinic we use was closed and we needed to call it in. This is important because if you don't use the local clinic, the out-of-area one takes 4+ hours to come out. While that was processing, I did a lengthy investigation with the union. I spent the entire night going by the book, taking pictures and documenting everything I could. By the time I finished and the drug test finished, it was 7 a.m. and my shift started in 30 minutes. This is the time the morning manager came in. They're one of my favorites and why I pick up mornings all the time. When she saw me, said, "Oh, you're in early." I said I never left. Her face dropped, because they have a rule that while management, including supervisor, can work more than 16 hours, if they work more than 20 hours, they need a 24 hours reset. I wasn't in the union but still hourly salaried and got OT over 8 hours in a day. So not only was I going to not be able to make my morning shift, I couldn't make my evening shift either. I was still going to be paid for both while being sent home. She asked me who told me to do this, and I showed her the message from the evening manager telling me to stay until it is finished. I went home and enjoyed my extra day off into weekend. When I came back, I had an interview about the incident with the senior manager. After showing my messages, which the manager tried to delete but only did on his side, I was dismissed without any issues. The manager was written up by the senior manager, and they had to pay me my 2 regular shifts plus 24 hours of overtime. Needless to say, I stopped picking up after that, no matter how much they begged. Story 4, by the short and curlies. I worked for a company that located individuals that didn't want to be found. As a lead investigator, I found the systems and databases used in performing this work to be a complete mess. Nothing tied together, and made a 10-minute process take an hour with the back and forth. I created a program that would pull all the information from different databases into one single platform, effectively eliminating 50% plus of the time required. Everybody loved it, including the VP, my direct supervisor, and the CEO, his supervisor. After using my program for about a year, not only were they dependent on it, but specifically sourced other databases at a super high cost that were able to have their information pulled into the platform I created. When the time came for a promised raise, they said they couldn't do it, maybe next year. I explained how much I had streamlined the company, saved them time and money, but they insisted a raise couldn't be met. So I walked into my office, removed my program from the server, and quit on the spot. To say things went to shit quickly is an understatement. They called me begging to reinstall my program, then resorted to threatening lawsuits, etc. Eventually they did take me to court, and of course, I could prove I wrote the program, and they had no legal right to use it in my absence, so I won. On top of having to pay my attorney fees, they signed a contract with me to allow them to use my program via yearly contract for the exact amount my salary would have been had they given me a raise, all without me having to step back in that building ever again. So, if by any chance you are reading this, Bradley, it's 84 degrees on the beach right now, but I have a margarita to keep me cooled off.